2, 1. Hi everybody, and welcome to part 2 of my interview with Dr. Dwayne Jakes. Hi Dwayne, and welcome to part 2.
Hey Stuart, how you doing? I'm doing
Good,
fine down here in the south, and we're
good,
ready to go.
great. I'd like to start off today's interview by asking, when writing an effective strategic business plan, what is one of the first steps a new business owner should develop? What should the plan include?
Well, Stuart, I believe there are 7 essential steps, elements to an effective business plan. The first step is creating an executive summary. Most of the time when you want to get funded by a financial institution, they won't have time to read the whole business plan. So they're going to look at the executive summary. The executive summary typically includes the objectives of the organization, the mission of the organization, and the critical keys to success as identified by your organization. The second step is a company's summary, which is basically the organizational summary, and it talks about who's the ownership of it. And in part 1, we discussed business structures. Well, the company summary identifies the business structure, whether it be a limited liability company or partnership, sole proprietorship, S corporation, or basic incorporation. It also has the startup summary. It has the startup current and long-term assets, which how much money they're going to operate from in the beginning. And it also states the location. The third step of an effective business plan are the products and services that you're going to offer. The fourth step is critical because it has all of your market research and data. It talks about some of the key points within that market research or market segmentation, your industry analysis based on what industry you're focusing on, your competition and buying patterns, your promotional strategies, and now I would include a social media promotional strategy as well, your basic marketing strategy, your sales strategy, your sales forecast, because most institutions want to know, what are your forecasts and your competitive edge. The fifth step of the management is management and personnel summary. Who are you going to hire? Are you going to try to do everything yourself, or will you hire good personnel and delegate? You have to have a plan, and basically you want to have some people with experience. The sixth step is financial plan, and that financial plan is the numbers. So, most of the institutions, sometimes the institutions go directly to the numbers. So they want to know about the break-even analysis, the projected profit and loss, the projected cash flow, the balance sheet, and the business ratios. And lastly, appendix. So, the appendix just basically has maybe some press clippings, some benchmarks. If you look at other organizations that are similar to yours, you maybe want to put some facts in about those organizations and tell how you can improve on those numbers, and backup information. So, they want to know basically, do you have a succession plan in the appendix? So those are 7 key elements, I think, that should be included in an effective business plan.
Right. Is there somewhere that someone, like if they're not sure how to start a business plan or how to put one together, is there somewhere they can go, or some people who can help them out?
Yes, you can. Some financial institutions provide training. Some governments provide, that kind of resource. Your Bay Chamber of Commerce, you can always go to the chambers, and they'll help you along those lines. Business Rotary Clubs to help you along those lines. So there are a lot of avenues available, even universities. So you have business universities that have workshops along those lines. In the U.S., we have a lot of workshops that are provided by the universities that would help train along those lines. And many of those are offered at minimum price. So you don't always have to, hire expert to get help on developing an effective business plan.
So it's just a matter of doing a bit of research, see what's available in your area, and then just approaching them saying, look, I'm putting together a business plan and I'm not sure what I need to include, etc. Could you please give us a hand or give us some guidelines?
Yes, and many people will help you. Some entities even have basic templates along those lines. With some of the basic steps like the executive summary, they kind of guide you in an effective way to doing them. So they're not real hard. You just have to know what key elements that you really need if you are seeking funding. Now, if you already have funding, then you can basically pretty much put whatever you want in the plan because it's more for your convenience as opposed to a lending institution. But if you want it funded, you have to have there are certain elements that has to be in that plan if you expect for a venture capitalist or a banking institution, to fund you money for your business.
So the plan is adaptable then. It's not set in stone. Sort of you can leave various elements out if necessary.
Oh, oh yes, yes. I have 7 steps that I basically use, but it depends on the size of the organization. Now, the steps that I mentioned earlier, they are for bigger organizations. If you are a small mom and pop store, you probably only need 3 of those 7 steps. So business plans are very adaptable based on how much finance, how many finance you need, the elements that you need in the organization. So if you have a small organization, you don't need as many steps in the plan. So they're very adaptable.
Why should you develop a business plan?
Or you want to be organized. You have to maintain structure if you want to succeed in business. So you need, whether you're seeking funding or not, you need a business plan, even if you just don't follow the plan yourself. So you want to know what direction you're going. You want to know, each time you complete a milestone per se, you want to check it off. So you definitely always want to be organized and have a plan so you can have a direction of where you're going.
Right, so it's there to sort of as a guideline mainly to say, right, we're now done step 1, we need to have step 2 finished within 2 weeks, we need to have step 3 and 4 finished by the end of the month, and so forth.
Right. Yes, you want to, you have to have milestones. Some people are good at doing stuff on the fly, spur of the moment, but in business, that's not a good idea. It's going to catch up sooner than later. So you want to be organized and follow a plan always. It's like baking. If you ever baked a cake, and if you're an expert in baking, you can leave out some ingredients, a pinch of sugar, a pinch of butter. But if you never baked the cake before, you need to follow every ingredient of that cake is going to fall in the middle. So it's the same in business. You shortcuts for the people of the Bill Gates of the world who've been doing it forever. If you're a new business, you can't take shortcuts. You have to start and work your way up and build that confidence and build that credibility before you start taking shortcuts. And the only way you can do that is to have a plan and work the plan. Not having a plan is a good thing.
So it's like a recipe to success in the end, isn't it?
Yes, it's a recipe, and if you stick to the recipe, you're gonna. I would say you're gonna at least have a 75% chance of success. You're never perfect, but I like your odds when you're following a plan as opposed to doing stuff at the spur of the moment.
In your experience, what are some of the common mistakes people make when they start setting up a business plan?
They lack specific goals, strategy, unrealistic forecasting, growth projections. Especially with forecasting, most times these people do these business plans, they don't really forecast. They estimate instead of having actual numbers, and that can be a problem because they don't go out and do the market research. So you have to go out and do the market research and benchmark other organizations that are similar to yours before you can secure your plan. That's one of the major steps. Fear. People are fearful a lot too. So people let other people put negative ideas of trying to market your business plans. Those mistakes that are made often. Cash flow is also a problem too. So, some of the common mistakes made, they don't project the cash flow correctly. They don't put the tables in. They lack unrealistic forecasting. They just lack confidence. And some, and lack confidence comes from not planning. It's still just doing stuff, not being organized, not being structured. Now, there are several available resources to combat that. You can use the Small Business Development Centers in the United States. You can use the SBA, that's the Small Business Administration. You have business schools. Over in this country, we have something that's called SCORE. And I imagine they have that in other countries, but I'm going to tell you what SCORE is. In this country, it's called the Service Corps of Retired Executives. And most organizations and countries have people that have been in business, for many years, kind of like the gurus, the experts, and once they retire, they are the resources that you can go to because they've been there before, they've done it. So you want to go to those retired executives and get assistance. So there are platforms in place to keep you from, having those shortcomings, basically.
So it sounds like the mistakes that you've come across is due to lack of foresight and planning, not having a business plan in place or not having a proper business plan in place, even though, like you said, you don't have to have it all there because depending on what circumstances you're starting your business in, but it's due to, like you said, lack of planning in advance.
Yeah, planning is always key. Now, I have friends in the industry that's been in the industry over 30 years, and they've done it so long, they don't really need plans. They have a plan in their head because it's repetition. But, new organizations can't do that. If you don't have any experience, how can you just put a company together, put a plan together, and expect it to work? Now, I know we all have confidence, but I'm more confident with a plan. Even today, I've organized probably 75 companies in the last 7 years. I think 71 of them are still in business and profitable. And I have had a plan for each one. I think the four businesses that didn't succeed were restaurants. And, that's always a competitive industry globally. It's hard, the food and service industry is a hard, competitive industry. So, if you work the plan and you lead and you're organized and you manage the business well, you succeed.
Yeah, I guess also being overconfident is probably a mistake as well. You start to take shortcuts, you leave out specific areas of your business plan, and you just get too overconfident because, I've done it before, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you can't be overconfident. You just have to. You have to have in business in general. You have to be even keeled. So you have to not get too overjoyed when things are going great, and you can't get too down on yourself when things are not going well. In business, you just have to. If you're a poker player, you have to be able to just have calm nerves at all times in business because you're gonna have highs and lows, and it's how anyone can be great when you're on the highs. But, the most successful business people are the ones that handle adversity. I kind of like adversity because, you can find out who the strong people are, in critical situations.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know who's going to step up in the bad times. Everybody steps up in the great times. And with effective business plan, you are prone to have a better outcome. As opposed, but you can't be overconfident.
Mm-hmm.
The market globally can change. You look at France and Germany and some of these countries that's been very successful financially for years, including the United States. We are all facing economic uncertainty. So we depend on China because, China produces about 40% of the manufacturing goods worldwide. And we can't blame China. We all put ourselves in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of that comes from overconfidence amongst all other countries. So you have to, reevaluate and get back to the basics and work the plan.
Where can someone get help for developing a business plan?
Oh, your chambers of commerce, the Rotary clubs, if you are local, your local businesses, they will assist you. Or you can go to specialized people like me, consultants. You have your big seven consulting firms that everybody know about. There are several different places. Once again, universities. So there are several places. People should not get discouraged. Even the financial institutions themselves have webinars. If you have internet access, uh, you can look at the internet and read some information on business plans. Now, all of it is not credible, but at least it's a starting point. So there are a lot of resources available to get help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me, I'm biased, so I would prefer you call me because it's going to be right. But there are other avenues that people can use to have successful plans made. So worldwide.
Yeah, so it comes back to like we were talking yesterday, visit your Chamber of Commerce, visit your local Rotary Club, your Lions Club, visit even your bank. Your financial institutions should have someone or may know somebody. Do a search online for people who do this sort of thing as living in your local area, and even the yellow pages, your local telephone directory, places like that. Do a search first, and then you should find something in your area, or you may know somebody who knows somebody, a friend of a friend even.
Yes, and it's funny, Stuart, that you would mention the yellow pages, because with the internet, everyone's gone so technical, but the traditional marketing, the yellow pages are still effective.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at those yellow pages and find people that can help you with those business plans. I wasn't specific enough when I talked about the banks. If you have a personal bank account with a financial institution, they do have small business areas of those banks, that provide assistance with these business plans. So if you have saved money in a financial institution, you should ask that institution what do they have available in terms of assistance with business plan, because you are already banking and doing business with those institutions. So you may as well use some of the products and services that you are paying for. So that's a good idea to ask those institutions.
Mm-hmm. So there's plenty of places for people to start. It's just a matter of looking and choosing one that's suitable to you or closest to you. Or as you said, just go and speak to your small business advisor at your local bank or co-op or credit union. There's plenty of people out there who will be able to help you and point you in the right direction, or actually help you get started.
Oh yeah. Don't get discouraged. There are plenty of places to help you be successful with the business plans. A lot of people are discouraged. Some people won't start a business because they are afraid. They've heard so much negative stuff about, creating a business plan. So they are so fearful, and that really deters people that probably have good skills and are ready to start a business, but they are so afraid of the planning process part of it that they won't start a business because they are afraid to ask someone to help them with the plan. And I run into that all the time, but I just want to reassure everybody the plan is not as hard as they think it is. You just have to just take your time, be positive, and have a vision first and foremost.
Yeah. What steps are involved in choosing the right business structure, and why are they important?
Well, you have to research, depending on your area of the world. You have to research, like over here in the United States, you have to research your local, state, and federal agencies first, because each entity is different. So, but nothing precedes the federal government in this country. So, basically you want to look at the federal government, see what they have to offer, see what's a basic requirement globally in terms of the structures. Once you determine that, then you look at the state level, and then in our country, you look at the county level. So you go to those places, you ask the questions, you pick up publications, you read those publications, and most of the time the information is available. And you can, a lot of times with the world being so technology sound, you can find those sources that I just mentioned have internet connection. You know, they have internet websites also. So you really don't even have to go into the office. You can just look on their site, and they have specific sections. Most of them are called corporations. Like, you know, with the state that I stay in the United States, we have a Secretary of State, and they have a business division that talks about the legal structures, and that's coming over here. And I imagine it's the same pretty much in other countries where, you know, you have to go through certain levels to find consistency and see where your organization fits in.
So I guess then, sort of, to start out, it might be best to look at the your local taxation, the country, your local country's taxation. Like, for your instance, it's the IRS. Over here in Australia, it's the Australian taxation, and they will have all the forms or links relevant to what you're looking for, which will point you in the right direction.
Yes, first and foremost, because the taxation part, everything in business stems from them. Most countries worldwide, they have a taxation process, and, you know, you will pay taxes if you're in business. So if you contact those entities, they'll definitely tell you if the structure is correct. For instance, let's say I'm a limited liability corporation, so I receive a lot of information on whether my structure needs to change if I make more money or I hire more people. They would suggest that I move from a limited liability corporation to an incorporation. So you want to consult your tax entity in your country to make sure that you are aligned, you know, with the right business structure for your company. Mm-hmm. And they'll lead you right, because all of them have the proper publications in place.
Yep.
And they have numbers that you can contact.
And they also don't want to miss out on any money they can get off you, so they'll be the first ones to help you.
Oh yes, they want to make sure you can pay them. Yeah. They want you to be successful, because if you are successful, they make money also.
And it's the only time they're helpful, I think, as well.
Yes, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah. Is there anybody they can go to help them out? Like, they're not sure how to fill out the form. Are there people who actually do this as a living that can help you fill out these forms and look after it for you on your behalf?
Yes, you have, with any tax area that deals with tax, you have certified public accountants, and you have financial planners. So, you know, there are several people in place that can help you with those types of structure. You have your local tax people also. So each area, you know, there are plenty of people that can help you financially. They can mentor you also. They can show you how they did it. And you can use once again, you can utilize the university system. So the education, your university system have those types of people in places too. Your professors, a lot of your professors that are in accountancy and math and those types of areas, they can assist you also. And a lot of the time, those professors would do it for free, because that's part of what they do. So there are several resources available to assist you with that type of stuff when it comes to the finances. Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of, like we said before, just looking and finding out. You know, don't be afraid to ask. It comes back to the old school days. Don't be afraid to ask. You know, there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you're not sure, ask your local accountant, ask your Chamber of Commerce, your Lions, your Rotary Club, or online. You know, just do a quick research, and there'll be somebody there who can help you out. Even, I hate to say it, but even ask your local tax office.
Yes, yes, they will help you. And anyway, ask you that you pay your taxes.
Oh, excuse me. How do you register a small business, and what type of business options are there?
Well, it just depends. You have to decide on the business structure before you can register. So once you decide, let's assume that everyone's decided the proper structure. Then you go to your local, state, and your governance body, and you register the business, and they are still going to be tied into your taxation entity also. It's all hand in hand. So you have to complete the forms, and you have to pay fees, and most of the time you have to pay those fees yearly. So it's a recurring fee. So if you're going to continue to do business, each year you're going to have to renew those structures. I have to renew my limited liability structure each year. I have to renew my business license locally each year, to maintain my consistency and maintain the guidelines, of the state that I live in and the country I live in. So it's pretty much universally the same way. Once you determine what the structure is, you have to fill out the proper application. You have to basically register those corporations. In this country, in the United States, you have to also, if you're not a sole proprietor, you have to get an employee identification number. If you're not going to, otherwise they're going to make you use your Social Security number to identify how the government is going to receive their taxes from you. So some of those, those are some of the things that you have to do. When you're registering that business, they're going to ask you what type of business you are. If you're a sole proprietor, they're going to definitely take your Social Security number and track your transaction that way. Otherwise, they're going to ask you to fill out a form, what we call an employee identification number. Mm-hmm. And that's, that even if they don't know the name of your organization, they can just go by your number. And globally, most global companies have an employee identification number that people go by.
Yeah. You mentioned you got to register your business each year. Is that, with the fees related to that, does that vary from state to state, or is it just sort of a set standard across the board?
Yeah, each state is different. Each county, each local entity is different. So those fees are not universal. It just depends on which region you stay in. In the United States, I stay in the South. Mm-hmm. So things are cheaper in the South as opposed to, let's say, Washington, D.C. or New York, the bigger metropolitan area. Those fees are enormous because there's more competition and the populations are bigger. So it depends on where you stay, the area, the location, because the fees are going to be determined by those types of variables. And they are recurring.
Yes. Does it also depend on what type of business you run? Or
yes. Yes, it depends on retail and manufacturing. All of those entities, some of the prices are going to be different in terms of, your registration fees will be different by industry and code, or the different codes. Even in this country, our tax codes are based on, the industries that you are in. So all of those things makes a difference. So you're never, I don't think in any country you're going to find one flat fee, especially your countries that, let's say, democracy countries. I can't speak for communist countries because I don't know I don't know their fee structures, but most of your free trade countries, I use that term, mm-hmm. The fees vary.
Yeah, so it sounds very complicated as well, but I gather it's not that complicated once you start filling in the forms. It seems very complicated, but it's not, I guess.
Yes, once you get over the fear, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to do it a few times to understand the process. So, mm-hmm. Once you do it, and a lot of people outsource those types of things too. So you don't have to really be a math major when it comes to, registering those types of things. You can in part one we discussed outsourcing, and those are the types of things that smaller businesses that don't really know, they outsource that function and have someone that take care of their registration each year.
Yeah. What are the startup costs involved in a small business? Are there certain fees you have to pay, and I know you've mentioned the taxes, that's an ongoing thing, but are there any other startup costs involved?
Oh yeah, each business is different with the startup costs. There's no set procedure. Let's just say I'm building a professional service firm, like mine. Startup cost is relatively low because, in this, a lot of countries now, a lot of people, they don't buy businesses. In the old days, everyone bought an office and they set the shingle out, especially lawyers and professional service people. Now, A lot of people cut costs, operating costs, by operating offices out of their homes. So in terms of rent and everything, the startup costs are low. Now, if I'm a bakery, it's going to be expensive. I have to pay for equipment. I have to pay for a building. I have to pay staff. I have to pay specialized people depending on what kind of products that I'm selling in that bakery. Some people might be good at cinnamon rolls and pastries. Some people may be better with cookies. Some of my staff may be better with making cakes, different kinds of cakes and cupcakes. So you have to determine all of that in the startup because first month rent, last month rent, water, utilities. So the startup costs vary based on the industry. When you're a new startup, I always suggest that you ask the financial institution for 3 times the amount you may need because you're going to have contingency expenses that you're not going to be able to account for in the business plan. So, it's best to have more than less. If you are operating off 50,000 and the institution only loans you 60,000, okay, if something happened, you're not going to have the money to fix it, to fix that situation. So, with startup costs, there's no set limit, but you have an idea based on your market research still. You're going to have an idea. With the example I use with the bakery, if I'm looking at other bakeries globally, I'm going to look at their bottom line and see what they're operating on each year, and I'm probably going to add 10 to 15% to that. But you have to have something to go by, with those startup costs. You don't basically project them out as clear blue sky,
Yeah, so I guess when you're looking at how much it's going to cost you, you need to take into account and figure in overheads, like you said, electricity, water, gas, heating, lighting, structures. Do you need a building or can you work from home? Wages, product cost for products, shelving, and all that sort of thing. So you need to sort of look into quite a lot of areas, as well as I guess your forecast for profit making as well. You need to sort of factor in, well, we believe we're going to turn a profit within 6 months. I'm going to need X amount of money to oversee that, plus, like you said, 10-15% just in case there's a downturn in the market or other circumstances that you can't factor in. Right. So you need to look at all that sort of thing, I guess.
Yes, you have to look at, you pretty much have to look at everything. You can't assume, even with the licenses, back to a few questions ago, even with the business license, you have to factor in the permits each year, because each country has different codes. So you have to find out what the codes are for that specific country and what are those fees. So you have to factor that in. That's the part of those 7 steps that I mentioned earlier in the business plan. When you get to that market part, you have in the finance part, that's where you factor in all those prices for startup. You have to do, in my years of experience, you need at least a 3 to 5 year plan projection in terms of forecasting. And you have to, with the way the world is globally and the interest rates globally and the market being bad and unstable, I would say you would need to add 10%. When you're forecasting those 3 to 5 years, each year you need to add 10% to those each year of inflation rate. So, so you have to cover yourself that way. Right now, I think globally we're at about 8.5%, 9% in terms of the rates worldwide. So I would say to be safe for new businesses, you want to factor in 10% each year for 5 years in your plan. You want to forecast that way to be able to protect yourself in the new stuff. Because let's say with manufacturing, automotive, those parts are going to, the price of the parts are going to be high each year. Parts and labor always increase, whether you're in inflation or not. So you have to forecast those rates into your plan. So you have to pay your people by market plus 10%.
Yes.
If you want to have good people.
What financing options are available for a new business? Is it like banking or credits or loans or anything like that they can use, or is it one
Oh yeah.
particular avenue only?
Oh no, there are several different options available for startups. I say, you have small business loans. Most countries worldwide, they have credit unions. They have financial institutions. They have credit unions. You can secure grants, venture capitalists. You have so many billionaires worldwide. So you always have venture capitalists that are looking for new opportunities to make money. So, if you present a good plan to a venture capitalist, they're willing to go 70, 30, 60, 40. And some I've had clients before say, well, why am I giving them 60%? And I have to be the rational person and say, because you have zero. If you've gone to the other sources and they denied you, and you have the venture capitalist that's willing to give you 40% when you have zero and they have a billion, how are you losing?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a win-win, because most of the time the venture capitalists will give you opportunity within 5 years to buy back, the majority of the business, where you can own the 60% and they'll own the 40. So there are a lot of certain ways, to achieve that money. There's a lot of available sources for funding out there. You just have to be aggressive. You can't be afraid to seek non-traditional sources of funding, because everyone goes to the bank and everyone goes to the credit union. Those are the first steps that everyone do. Let's look at family members. I didn't mention family members. You may have family members in business that are doing well, that are willing to loan you money to get your business started.
Mm-hmm.
So you have other avenues to seek funding.
Does it depend on the type of business you're starting, or is it just a generalization? Like if you're starting a small business from home, will that depend on who will loan you money as compared to, say, a small bricks and mortar business going into manufacturing?
Mm-hmm. In terms of the lending institutions, they have set asides for, like, the first example you used, Stuart. If you're just a small lemonade stand, okay, they're going to give you that money because it's not a risk. But if you want to, if you're a manufacturing company, if they see that they can make their money back, you're most likely to get that loan, because they can see the long range plan. So it does depend on the size of the business, which institution will fund you. Matter of fact, most lending institutions, the banks and the credit unions, have what they call micro loans available for businesses that and we call those loans 25,000 and less.
Mm-hmm.
So they have those types of loans, and they are low risk. Interest rates are low, so they have those available depending on the size of your organization. Many times organizations will lend you those micro loans because they're not really, they give credit cards with that much money these days, to college kids.
True.
So it just depends on the size.
Yes. So it doesn't matter what sort of business you're in. There's a loan specifically developed for your type of industry, either it be a mum and pop, a manufacturing, a multi-global business, a bricks and mortar, or the local street vendor who's selling chestnuts or hot dogs on the corner street, or at the local baseball game or football game. It is a loan to suit your particular industry.
Oh yes, there are loans available. Even I tell you, one area that I left off. Let's use some of the big corporations like IBM,
Mm-hmm.
Apple. Those organizations have loans in place too, because they're trying to keep up with the Googles of the world, with technology. So you have IT organizations that are willing to give new companies a shot. And in return, they say, you give us rights to some of your new inventions. So it's a trade-off. So
Yes.
you even have big corporations like Google that have IT loans available if you're going into that type of industry, because it's so competitive.
So they're virtually paying you as a employee as such.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What's involved in selecting a business location? I know everybody, except for those who are working at home, they're going to need somewhere to set up office. Is there a reason behind choosing the right place?
I think so. I would say if you're gonna select a business location, I always write down questions for my clients. I always ask these questions. Do your customers come to you? You have to ask that question first. Do you have to go to your customers? Are you gonna have employees? Do you manufacture products and services for distribution? You know, those types of questions, you have to determine your business activity. Is it easy? You know, in the United States, they are big on handicap access. So, you know, you have to ask all, you know, each country have different zoning requirements. And so, you know, you have to ask those types of questions and do the research before you decide where you're going to locate. It's hard to locate. If I wanted to locate a professional service firm next to Arthur Anderson, that would be a good idea, being a small organization like I am, because perception and people are going to go to something that's been established for over 100 years, and you can have the best product in the world, but the brand has been built like Mercedes-Benz.
Mm-hmm.
It's a global brand. So if you're a new car startup, you don't want to locate in Germany, because it's going to be a losing proposition. If like Kia in Korea, if you're a new company that want to do those types of cars, you're not going to locate there. So you have to find a niche where you can be successful. That's first and foremost. So, you have to find an area that your brand will stand out. That's important to me in terms of location. I say let's not pick the popular place too, because a lot of times people will determine the location just on traffic.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a good enough product and you're sitting out in the wilderness, in the desert by yourself, that's okay. People will come to you if the product is good. Sometimes you want to sit alone and be a standalone because your product is that good. I look at Nike. Nike in the United States, it sits out in Portland, Oregon, which is pretty much out there in the middle of the wilderness. It's a rainy area, but Nike is a global icon, and people go to them instead of the other way around. And you have to determine that type of stuff when you're looking for location.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at every variable.
What about competition? Like, if there's enough competition, would that factor in also to where you would locate? Like, say, if your research says, well, there are 3 cake shops, but due to the population and the expanding housing market, they could do with another cake shop. Would that be a situation where you would go into and set up another, for instance, that particular scenario, cake shop?
It wouldn't be recommended, but the type of person I am, I would go there because I like competition.
Yeah.
But some people sometimes people are insecure. But I think if your plan is good and your vision is good, it shouldn't really matter what the other people are doing. I look at certain automobile, organizations, and I look at Ford. For years, Ford didn't do well until they had the crash of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
But now, they re-engineered those engines, and they are actually performing pretty well. They could have felt sorry for themselves, but in business, you just have to step up to the challenge. And if you feel like your product is good, if Burger King and McDonald's was next door to each other, Stuart and you and I both like both corporations, we still going to buy from both.
Yeah.
So it don't matter if they're next door to each other, because if we like what they offer, goods and services, we're going to still purchase from both of them. So a little competition is sometimes good.
Yes, I was about to say, so competition is good for your market, but as well, it also can be a disadvantage depending on, I guess, with your research, you're looking at your demographics and like that, is it an expanding area? Is there new infrastructure going in? Is there a new bypass going in? Railway lines, things like that, housing, is it an up-and-coming area as well? Like, you got to look into all those factors. And if it is,
Right.
and it is going to be a big population explosion in the area, an extra hamburger restaurant, pizza restaurant, Italian bakery, and so forth will be a good idea because it can cope with the demand.
Yes. Oh, yes. And sometimes, when you go into a new location and it's underdeveloped, it's good for you because once it explodes, all of a sudden your brand is right there. So that's an excellent example that you just made, Stu. If you are the new kid on the block and all of a sudden you have this new population of buyers, like Facebook, 900 million buyers, someone's coming to your organization out of 900 million people. The numbers, the ratio is in your favor. So it's a good thing. If you do your research, you come out pretty good. That's the first and most important thing. You always have to do the research for location.
Yeah, so just summarizing, you need to research. Competition is good because it proves that there is a market for your particular product, but don't just solely rely on competition. Don't be afraid to have the competition and use it, because if there are
Right.
people out there selling and there's more than one particular marketer in that area doing it, there must be a demand for it.
Oh, yeah. It's just basic, from an economics perspective, it's always this general term that's acceptable worldwide, supply and demand.
Yes.
And if you are a new company and there's a demand for your new product, you're going to do well. Because people, no matter what country you live in, people like to try different stuff. So if you have something different to offer, they may not try it more than once, but they're guaranteed to try it at least once. And it's up to you to make sure they come back again for repeat business.
Yes, no truer word said there, Dwayne. We're coming to the end of our interview today. Could you give a summary of what we've gone over?
Okay. First and foremost, I think to be effective as a business, you have to write an effective business plan. The first important phase of the plan, and that's you need that plan for the investors, basically. You don't really need the plan for yourself, but if you're seeking funding, you have to have that plan in place because no institution wants to lose money. So, they can have the right intentions, but all institutions are in place to make money. So your plan has to be solid because the institution want to have as low risk as possible. So, as we summarize today, you make sure you have a good business plan because that's the roadmap. The business plan can open up opportunity also. So, you don't have to stick to that plan. It's just a starting point because I've been in this industry about 25 years. Plans change. So if the market changes, you have to be able to offer different services. You can always change the mission and the vision of your organization. So you have to change with the times. So having that plan in place, utilizing that plan, seeking the correct funding for that plan, those are the three, I think, from our conversation today in part two. To me, those are the three big steps. Writing a plan, making sure the plan has a sound roadmap so we can follow the plan, and then seeking funding from investors to actually put the plan in place. I would summarize today part two by those three key factors.
Right, that's great, and thank you for being online today. I look forward to our part three of our interview. And once again, once again, Dwayne, thank you for being online, and I look forward to talking to you again shortly.
Okay, Stuart, and you was correct. It is Jakes, so you didn't make a mistake. You were good the first time.
I hate it when that happens.